All right, class, welcome. Today we're going to tackle something super important in systems analysis, how to create what's called an entity relationship diagram, or as you'll hear me say a lot, an ERD.
So, you get a big paragraph of text describing a system. How in the world do you turn that into a clean, functional database design? I know it can look a little daunting at first, but trust me, it's a very logical process. We're going to walk through it step by step.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll cover what an ERD even is. Then we'll get into reading the business rules, drawing the actual diagram, defining the connections, and finally doing a quality check on your work.
Okay, let's dive right in. First things first, the blueprint for data. We really need to understand the what and the why of ERDs before we start drawing anything.
So at its heart, an entity relationship diagram is just a visual map of the data a system needs. It shows all the important pieces of information, we call those entities, and exactly how they're all connected to each other. It's not about the code or the specific database software. Nope. It's all about nailing down the business logic first.
I love this analogy. An ERD is truly like an architect's blueprint for your database. You just wouldn't start pouring concrete and putting up walls for a house without a plan, right? Same thing here. Building a database without an ERD is a recipe for disaster.
All right, now that we know why we need a blueprint, where do we get the materials? It all starts with the text. You have to carefully read the project description to find what we call the business rules.
So before you even think about drawing a single box or line, you've got to mine that text for clues. I break it down into 3 simple steps. First, look for the nouns. These are your potential entities. Then, find the verbs. These show how the nouns interact, giving you your relationships. And finally, look for descriptive words or characteristics. These are your attributes.
Now, this is a really important distinction to make. An entity is a major thing, a person, a place, an event that the system absolutely has to store information about. An attribute, on the other hand, is just a piece of information about an entity. So, as you're reading, you always have to ask yourself, is this a main noun or is it just a descriptor? Okay, so you've read the business rules, you've got your list of nouns and characteristics, now it's time to actually start drawing. Let's talk about structuring those core components, the entities and their attributes. It's super simple to start. For every one of those main nouns, those entities that you identified, you're just going to draw a rectangle. Let's just call this one entity A for our example. This is literally the first step to making your data visual. Okay, you've got your box. Now, what about all those characteristics you found? Well, they go inside that entity's rectangle. So for entity A, we'd list things like attribute X and attribute Y right in there because they belong to that entity. They describe it. But wait a minute. This brings up a really, really important problem. What if you have 2 instances of an entity that seem identical, say 2 patients, both named Jane Doe? How does the database know which Jane Doe is which? We need a way to tell them apart, guaranteed. And the solution to that problem is something called the primary key, or PK. Every single entity must have one. A primary key is an attribute that is 100% unique for every single entry. Think of it like your student ID number. There are no 2 students with the same ID, right? That's what a primary key does.
And this brings us to a huge common mistake I see all the time. Do not forget to assign a primary key to every single entity. Without it, you can't uniquely identify your records, and the whole database design just fails. It's that fundamental. So you always underline the attribute that serves as the primary key. And hey, if a natural unique identifier doesn't exist, you just make one up. Awesome, so our entities are looking good. They have attributes, they have primary keys. Now for the fun part, connecting the dots. Let's define those relationships we found in the business rules. To show a relationship, you literally just draw a line between the 2 entities that are connected. And on that line, you're going to write the verb you identified from your text. So if entity A performs something related to entity B, you write performs right on that line. Simple as that. Okay, a line with the verb is a good start, but it's not specific enough. We need to add what's called cardinality. This is just a fancy word for the rules of the relationship. It answers the question, how many? We use these little symbols at the end of the line to be super precise. You've got your one and only one mark, the one or many, 0 or 1, and 0 or many. These are the symbols that bring the business rules to life.
And this is why you have to read those business rules so carefully. A rule that says each researcher is associated with only one institution is totally different from one that says they can be associated with more than one. That tiny change in phrasing completely changes the cardinality symbols you'd put on your diagram. The devil is in the details. Here's another super common mistake alert: putting the many symbol, that crow's foot, on the wrong side of the line. The trick is to always read the relationship out loud from both directions to check your logic. For example, if one customer can have many orders, the many symbol goes next to orders. If it makes sense both ways, you've probably got it right.
Okay, you've done it. You've drawn the entities, the attributes, the relationships. You have a full diagram. But you're not done yet. The last step, and it's a critical one, is your final quality check. You need to review and refine your own work.
So here's a little self-check checklist for you. Before you even think about turning this in, ask yourself these questions. Does every single entity have a primary key? Is every relationship clearly labeled with a verb? Does the cardinality actually match the business rule? Did you read the relationships in both directions? And are all the attributes in the right home? Seriously, running through this list will help you catch most of the common errors.
Now remember, what I'm teaching you here is a process. It's a repeatable method. I'm not giving you a specific answer to an assignment. The real goal is for you to apply these steps to any set of business rules you're given. Don't look for shortcuts. The key is to really master this process of analyzing text and translating it into a logical diagram. So now that you know how to build the blueprint, think about the possibilities. What's the most complex real-world system you could model? I mean, from our university's entire registration system to a massive logistics network, the fundamental principles we just covered are the starting point for all of them. It's a pretty powerful skill to have.